Some games just click instantly. You pick up the controller and everything feels smooth, intuitive, and satisfying. But then there are these games, the ones that feel stiff, clunky, or even frustrating at first. Maybe the combat is weird, the movement feels off, or the mechanics overwhelm you. And yet, if you push through, something magical happens. Suddenly, that clunky mess transforms into an absolute masterpiece. One of those games that sticks with you forever. So today we're looking at 10 clunky, hard-to-love games that become incredible if you stick with them. If you've ever dropped a game too early, maybe you'll find something here worth giving a second chance. Kingdom Come Deliverance. So picture this, you start a game expecting to be some legendary knight, right? A total badass, slicing through enemies like it's a Hollywood action scene. But nope, the game slaps you in the face and says, nah, you're Henry, a blacksmith's son, and you suck at literally everything. Your first sword fight, you flail around like a fish out of water, miss all your swings, and get smacked so hard you start rethinking your life choices. You try to run, you trip over a rock and pass out from exhaustion. You want to read a book? Well, guess what? You can't read. You actually have to learn how to read in this game. Yeah, it's that kind of experience. At first, everything feels clunky and weird. The combat isn't just press button to attack, it's like real sword fighting. You have to time your swings, block at the right moment, and aim for weak spots. If you go in spamming attacks like it's Skyrim, the game will punish you hard. Even something as simple as riding a horse feels like trying to drive a car with square wheels. And yet, this game is incredible, because once you actually get good, once you start understanding how everything works, it stops feeling like a game and starts feeling like real life in the Middle Ages. You're not just some random guy swinging a sword anymore. You're dueling knights, hunting in the woods, sneaking into enemy camps, and actually surviving in a world that feels so real. The little details make it even better. Your armor actually gets damaged and dirty over time, food rots if you don't eat it fast enough, if you don't sleep, Henry gets tired and starts failing at everything. It's not just a game, it's a full-on medieval life simulator. And let me tell you, when you finally become good at it, when you win your first proper duel, when you survive a massive battle without cheesing the system, it's one of the most rewarding experiences you'll ever have in an RPG. So yeah, at first, Kingdom Come Deliverance feels like it's out to make your life miserable, but if you give it time, it becomes one of the most immersive and unforgettable games you'll ever play. Just maybe don't try fighting 5 guys at once. You're not Geralt, bro. The Gothic Series. Let's talk about Gothic, the game that greets new players by punching them in the face and stealing their lunch money. You start as some nameless dude thrown into a brutal prison colony full of bandits, monsters, and angry NPCs who don't even pretend to like you. You try to talk to someone, they insult you. You try to fight, you get wrecked. You try to pick up a weapon, good luck even swinging it properly. The controls feel like they were designed by someone who actively despises human beings, and the combat, it makes Kingdom Come Deliverance look like Devil May Cry. At first, everything about Gothic screams you are not welcome here. The world is harsh, the enemies are relentless, and the game basically expects you to suffer for a few hours before you start having fun. It's like an old school RPG boot camp. But here's the twist. Once you survive that brutal learning curve, this game becomes one of the most immersive RPGs ever.
What fate?
The world isn't just some open sandbox full of quest markers and pointless NPCs. Every character has a life, a job, and an actual reason to exist. If you pick a fight, people remember it. If you steal something, the guards don't magically forget in 5 minutes. They'll chase you down and beat the crap out of you. The world feels alive, and unlike most RPGs where you start as the chosen hero, in Gothic you start as a nobody, and you have to earn your place. And that combat, yeah, it sucks at first, but once you learn it, once you figure out the rhythm of fights and actually train your character, suddenly you go from being a punching bag to a one-man army. You start feeling like you actually deserve every bit of power you get. So, if you're tired of modern RPGs spoon-feeding you everything and want a game that treats you like a lost child in the woods, give Gothic a shot. Just be ready to suffer first.
He is destined to be a hero.
Pathologic. Okay, so when you boot Pathologic up, and the first thing you'll notice is that everything feels off. Moving around is like wading through wet cement, fights are clumsy slapfests, and half the people you meet talk like they just woke up from the world's most confusing dream. And yet, somehow, all of this works perfectly. You're tossed into a decaying town where a plague is creeping through the streets like a shadow with bad intentions. Everyone wants something, but no one really trusts you. You're not just here to survive, you're here to fix things, but fixing anything in Pathologic is like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter what you do, the town will suffer. People will die, and every choice you make feels like it matters, even when the game gives you no good options. At first, it's frustrating, it feels unfair, like a puzzle missing half its pieces. But if you push through, something weird happens. You stop trying to beat the game and you start living inside it. The town isn't just a setting, it's a living, rotting thing, and you're part of its final days. And suddenly, that broken, awkward world starts to feel real. Pathologic doesn't just test your patience, it tests your sanity. It's not here to entertain you, it's here to trap you. But if you let it, it'll be one of the most haunting, unforgettable stories you ever experience. The Arma 3. This game is like, what if we made a military shooter so realistic that even the menu screens feel like boot camp? You load it up expecting a normal shooter and immediately realize you've made a mistake. There's no run and gun nonsense here. This game wants you to think, plan, and most importantly not get shot. And trust me, getting shot happens a lot. At first it's overwhelming, the controls feel like they belong to a flight simulator, you die in one bullet, and half the time you don't even see who shot you. If you run off alone thinking you're Rambo, you'll just end up as a cautionary tale for the rest of your squad. But if you stick with it, something clicks. You start moving like a real soldier, checking corners, communicating with your team, planning ambushes. Every mission feels like a high-stakes operation, where patience and teamwork matter way more than how fast you can pull a trigger. And when a plan actually comes together, chef's kiss. It's like starring in your own war movie. Arma 3 isn't just a game, it's a full-blown military experience. It doesn't care about being easy or flashy, it cares about being real. And once you embrace that, you'll never look at other shooters the same way again. A game that doesn't just want you to play a soldier, it wants you to be one. And not the action movie kind that jumps through explosions and shrugs off bullets. No! In Arma 3, one bad step and you're eating dirt before you even know what hit you. Just read the controls first, man. Trust me, your squad will thank you. Vampyr the Masquerade Bloodlines. So, Vampyr Bloodlines, a game that feels like a half-forgotten legend. Janky, buggy, barely stitched together, but once you step into its world, it owns you. At first, it's a mess. The combat feels like someone tried to program a fistfight while blindfolded. The AI sometimes forgets it exists and the game will crash just because it feels like it. If you go in expecting smooth gameplay, you're in for a rude awakening. But here's the thing, once you push past all that, once you stop expecting perfection and start embracing the chaos, Bloodlines becomes something truly special. Well, this isn't just a game about being a vampire, it's about surviving as one. You're thrown into the dark underbelly of Los Angeles, a world ruled by ancient bloodsuckers with secrets and schemes thicker than the smog in the sky. You're the new kid in town, freshly turned and completely unprepared for the horrors ahead. And believe me, horrors is the right word. Some of the stuff you'll see in this game will stick with you long after you turn it off. But here's where Bloodlines really shines. Choice. This game doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't tell you what's right or wrong, and it definitely doesn't care if you mess everything up. Want to talk your way through every situation, hypnotizing people with your supernatural charm? You can. Prefer to lurk in the shadows, taking out enemies before they even know you're there? That works too. Maybe you just want to go full Nosferatu and scare the life out of everyone who looks at you funny. That's an option. Every playthrough feels different because the game doesn't just react to your choices, it adapts to them. And let's talk about the writing, because wow, every character from the most powerful vampire lord to the weird guy selling blood out of a fridge feels real. The dialogue is sharp, dripping with personality, and packed with choices that actually matter. And then there's the haunted hotel level. Oh, you thought this was just a cool vampire RPG? Nope. Bloodlines takes a sudden detour into pure nightmare fuel. You'll hear whispers, see things move that shouldn't, and question every step you take. It's terrifying, and it's brilliant. Yeah, Bloodlines is clunky, it's buggy, it's about as polished as a brick. but it also has heart, and that's something a lot of perfect games don't have. It feels alive, or well, undead, but you get the point. Once you get past the rough edges, you'll find one of the greatest RPGs ever made, a game that drags you into its world and refuses to let go. Just do yourself a favor and install the fan patch first. Trust me, you need it. Yakuza 3. Okay, so Yakuza is kind of niche series, and Yakuza 3, well, I am talking to the fans here, who started from a perfect game like Yakuza 0 and then Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2, but now it's time to play Yakuza 3 to continue this amazing series. But oh man, isn't it a bummer? The game that feels like a street brawl between legendary storytelling and frustrating old school mechanics, and somehow both sides win. You pop it in, expecting another Yakuza game full of crazy fights, dramatic crime drama, and weird side quests where you help strangers with the dumbest problems imaginable, but instead the game greets you with a slower Kiryu, a stiffer combat system, and oh yeah, instead of punching gangsters in the neon streets of Kamurocho, you're running an orphanage by the beach, breaking up kid arguments over ice cream flavors. Yeah, Yakuza 3 throws a curveball, and at first it might feel like a bad one. The controls are clunky, combat feels like trying to fight underwater, and the game loves interrupting you with long-winded cutscenes, and yet, if you stick with it, something magical happens. First, you start to get the story. See, Kiryu isn't just some cool gangster, he's a guy trying to leave behind a life of violence. And taking care of those orphan kids, that's not just a weird side plot, it's the heart of the game. Kiryu isn't fighting for himself anymore, he's fighting for a future where those kids never have to live the life he did. And the more time you spend with them, the more you start to care. Then, there's the combat. At first, it feels stiff compared to later Yakuza games, but once you adjust, you realize there's still plenty of that classic Kiryu beatdown action. The fights get brutal, the heat moves are still gloriously over the top. Yes, you can still slam a guy's face into a table for no reason. And once you power up a bit, the combat actually starts to feel good. Slow? Yes. Satisfying? Absolutely? Sure. Yakuza 3 has some bumps, but once you push through, it reveals itself as a beautiful, emotional story wrapped in the usual mix of ridiculous fun and street fighting action. It might not be the smoothest Yakuza, but it's the one that makes you feel the most. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. A game that feels like it was made by a mad scientist who took a classic fantasy RPG, mixed in some Monster Hunter, added a sprinkle of Shadow of the Colossus, and then forgot to tell you how anything works. You start the game excited to go on a grand adventure, and within 5 minutes a dragon shows up, rips out your heart, and just leaves. No explanation, no tutorial, just boom, heart gone, and instead of, dying, you wake up feeling mostly fine, except now you're the Arisen, some kind of chosen hero with a mysterious destiny. What does that mean? The game doesn't exactly explain, but hey, that's your problem now. At first, Dragon's Dogma feels janky. The menus look like they belong in an ancient scroll, the UI is a mess, and the game gives you zero direction. You'll wander into a forest, hear some intense battle music, and suddenly a griffin swoops in out of nowhere and wrecks your entire party. Then you reload, go the other way, and whoops, now you're getting stomped by a rock golem the size of a house. But here's where the magic happens. The combat is incredible. The first time you grab onto a Cyclops' leg and start climbing up its back, stabbing it in the head while your party shouts battle tactics, you realize, oh, this game is special. Every fight feels epic. You can leap onto flying creatures and bring them crashing down, set goblins on fire, or literally cut off a Hydra's head, and it never gets old. Then there's the pawn system. Instead of traditional co-op, you get an AI-controlled companion, your main pawn, that you create from scratch. And these pawns, they learn. If they see an enemy once, they remember how to fight it. If they go on quests in other players' worlds, they bring back knowledge. It's like having a battle buddy who actually gets smarter the more you play. Sometimes, they're a little too smart, like when they spoil a quest by saying, I know this place, before you even get there, but it just adds to their weird charm. The game also doesn't hold your hand. There are no glowing quest markers pointing exactly where to go, no fancy level scaling to keep enemies balanced. If you wander into the wrong area, you will die. But if you come back later, stronger and smarter, revenge has never felt so good. Yes, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is clunky, it's weird, it doesn't care if you're confused, but if you push through that awkward first few hours, it transforms into one of the most thrilling action RPGs ever made. It's a game where every fight feels like a moment, every journey feels like an adventure, and every time you finally take down a massive beast that destroyed you before, it feels like justice. Also, don't play at night without a lantern, seriously, don't. The Surge 2. A game that looks at Dark Souls and says, yeah, but what if instead of knights and dragons, it was chainsaws and exoskeletons? At first, though, this game feels bad. The movement is clunky, enemies hit like they've been training in a rage room for years, and you die so fast it's like the game is just playing a prank on you. Oh, you thought you'd live more than 2 minutes? Cute! Even when you do manage to land some hits, the combat feels kinda off, like your character is swinging a baseball bat made of lead, but then you'll learn. You stop button mashing like a scared raccoon and start paying attention. You realize, oh wait, I can actually aim my attacks. And this is where the Surge 2 gets awesome. See, in most games, you just hit enemies until they fall over. But here, you target specific body parts. If some dude has cool armor on his legs, aim for them, chop them off, and boom, it's yours now. Want a new weapon? Go for the arms and take it. It's like the world's deadliest shopping spree. Every fight turns into this brutal chess match where you're not just fighting to win, you're fighting to upgrade yourself. And then there's the setting. Most games with a ruined city feel kinda empty, like everyone just vanished. But the Surge 2 feels alive, just in the worst possible way. Neon lights flicker, weird cults roam the streets, rogue robots are tearing everything apart. It's like someone hit the self-destruct button on Civilization, and you're just trying to survive in the wreckage. Oh, and let's talk about your character build, because this game lets you go wild. Wanna be a walking tank with the heaviest armor? You can do that. Wanna be a fast sword-swinging ninja who dodges everything? That works too. The more you play, the stronger you get, and eventually, the enemies that used to stomp you into the ground, you start stomping them back. Now, the Surge 2 isn't perfect. The story is kind of weird, some bosses are straight up unfair, and you will get mad at the game more times than you can count. But once you push past the tough start, it becomes seriously fun. Every fight feels personal, every upgrade feels earned, and every victory feels like you just outsmarted the game instead of just getting lucky. Just don't get attached to your first couple of characters, they're gonna die. A lot. ELEX 2. ELEX feels like someone took The Witcher, Fallout, and a very stubborn old-school RPG, tossed them into a blender, and then forgot to smooth out the edges. It's clunky, weird, and will absolutely bully you for the first 10 hours, but if you stick with it, oh man, it turns into something special. So, you start the game as Jax, a dude who looks like he's been through way too much already. He just saved the world in the first game, and now he's tired, broke, and probably smells bad. And instead of getting a hero's welcome, nope, he wakes up in a dirty little shack, gets attacked by some weird alien zombie thing, and realizes the world is falling apart again. Sounds fun, right? Well, not at first, because here's the thing. ELEX 2 does not care about your feeling. The combat? Stiff as a board. You swing your weapon, and there's a half-second delay before it actually happens. The enemies? They hate you. Even the weakest creatures can wipe the floor with you if you're not careful. You'll start fights feeling like a warrior and end them face down in the dirt, wondering where it all went wrong. And don't even get me started on the jetpack. Oh, cool, a jetpack, you think? This will make exploration fun, and it does once you upgrade it, but at first, it's more like a sad little hover machine that lets you barely avoid falling to your death. You'll get excited to fly somewhere, only to run out of fuel and land straight into a group of bandits who are not expecting visitors. But here's the thing, ELEX 2 makes you earn everything. The more you play, the more you understand how it works. You learn to fight smarter, manage your stamina, and pick battles you can actually win. You start getting better weapons, cooler armor, and suddenly, the world isn't terrifying anymore, it's yours to conquer. And speaking of the world, it's awesome. This isn't your typical medieval fantasy or basic sci-fi setting, it's a mix of everything. You've got ruined cities with Mad Max-style warlords, forests full of weird mutants, futuristic high-tech soldiers, and magic-wielding fanatics. It's a total mess, but in the best way. Then there's the story and choices. The people in this game, they remember what you do. If you help someone, they'll mention it later. If you're a jerk, they'll hold a grudge. And the factions? Oh boy, you can side with ruthless raiders, futuristic tech warriors, or even magic-wielding zealots. But no matter what, you'll make enemies. You can't please everyone, and that's what makes it fun. Sure, ELEX 2 is rough around the edges, the combat is clunky, the game explains nothing, and the graphics sometimes look like they belong in 2012, but if you push through, it rewards you with a world that actually reacts to you, choices that matter, and a journey that feels earned. And yes, upgrade your jetpack, trust me, you'll thank me later. the Vampyr. This game asks, what if being a vampire was actually a terrible, guilt-ridden nightmare instead of just looking cool in a leather jacket? At first, you think it's gonna be a power fantasy. You're Dr. Jonathan Reed, a famous doctor in 1918 London, and within 5 minutes of the game starting, you wake up as a vampire. You're strong, you're fast, and you've got deadly supernatural powers. Awesome, right? But nope, wrong to think that, because the game immediately slaps you in the face with its biggest question: how do you survive as a vampire without becoming a monster? See, Vampyr isn't just about biting necks and looking mysterious in the fog. You need blood to get stronger, but every person you kill actually matters. The people in the game aren't just nameless NPCs, they have jobs, families, relationships, they get sick, they talk to each other, and if you decide to drain someone dry, they're gone forever, and the world reacts. But here's the kicker: if you refuse to kill anyone, the game is way harder. You can play as a good guy, healing the sick, helping the city, and fighting bad guys the honorable way, but combat is tough. You'll be under-leveled, enemies will wreck you, and every fight will feel like a desperate struggle. On the flip side, if you embrace your vampire nature and start feeding, you become unstoppable. Level up fast, unlock new powers, destroy enemies like they're made of paper, but now you're a monster, and the world around you starts falling apart. And let's talk about the combat, because at first, it feels off. You swing your weapon, but enemies don't react much. You try to dodge, but the movement is kinda stiff, and the first few fights, they hurt. But after a while, once you unlock vampire powers, oh boy, you start teleporting, sinking your claws into enemies, drinking blood mid-fight to heal. It gets good. It just takes time to click. Then there's the atmosphere. The game absolutely nails its setting. London is dark, eerie, and dying from the Spanish flu. The streets feel abandoned, the fog rolls in thick, and the only people still out are either desperate survivors, secret vampire hunters, or things even worse than you. The game doesn't just tell you that the city is in bad shape, you feel it. And the story, surprisingly deep. It's not just about being a vampire, it's about who you choose to be. Do you cling to your humanity, or do you give in to your hunger? The game constantly tempts you, making you want to feed, but also making you care about the people you'd be killing. It's a vampire game that actually makes blood-sucking a moral dilemma, and that's kind of genius. Hitman Absolution. The black sheep of the Hitman family. If the other games are about being a cold, calculating assassin, this one is like, nah, what if 47 was in an action movie? At first you might think, hey, this is gonna be cool, a cinematic Hitman game with big action and a deep story. But then you actually start playing and it's like, wait, why is everything exploding? Why is Agent 47 sneaking around like he's in a bad undercover cop movie? Where's my freedom? See, the biggest issue with Absolution is that it doesn't feel like a traditional Hitman game at first. The old games let you wander around massive open-ended levels, blending into crowds, setting up elaborate assassinations, and making each mission feel like your own personal Hitman art piece. But in this game, you're constantly on the run, hiding from cops, sneaking through tight corridors, and getting into way more shootouts than you probably expected. And the disguise system? Oof. In older Hitman games, if you put on a guard uniform, you could walk around like you belonged. But here, every single guard with the same outfit gets instantly suspicious of you. You can't just stroll through an area, you have to keep using instinct mode to make yourself less suspicious, which is basically just holding a button and pretending to be invisible. Not great, bro. But here's the thing, if you push past that frustration and actually meet the game on its own terms, it's not bad, it's just different. Instead of big sandbox levels, you get smaller, tighter sections that are more about stealth and survival than being the ultimate silent assassin. Once you stop expecting classic Hitman gameplay, you start noticing that the game is actually really fun in its own weird way. The missions are also pretty awesome, even if they're more linear. One second you're sneaking through a burning hotel, the next you're in a cornfield avoiding dudes with flashlights. Then you're infiltrating a strip club owned by a sleazy crime lord. The variety is honestly wild, and the game never gets boring. And let's talk about the story, because, oh boy, this is where Absolution goes full Hollywood. In past games, Agent 47 was this quiet, emotionless killer always in control. But here, he's suddenly on a personal mission, protecting a girl, running from the law, and getting way more involved in the plot than usual. It's not the classic Hitman experience, but if you like over-the-top action thrillers, it's kind of fun in a cheesy way. Alpha Protocol. This game is like a spy thriller with a busted seatbelt. It starts shaky, feels kind of janky, but if you hold on, it takes you on one of the wildest rides in RPG history. It's the kind of game where you want to love it, but at first it feels like it doesn't love you back. And here we go again, so let's be real. The combat is a mess, shooting doesn't feel precise, stealth is unpredictable, and enemy AI has zero consistency. One minute a guy can't see you crouching 5 feet away, the next his friend from across the room somehow spots you through a wall. Melee attacks are hilariously overpowered, and hacking, that's a test of patience disguised as a minigame. And yet, it's brilliant. See, Alpha Protocol isn't really about smooth gunplay or tight controls, it's about consequences. Every decision you make sticks. There's no good or evil meter, no obvious right or wrong path, just choices that ripple through the entire game. People remember how you treat them, not just in cutscenes but in actual gameplay. Maybe you sweet-talked an informant so later they slipped you key intel. Maybe you pissed off a weapons dealer so now they send assassins after you. Even small talk with side characters can spiral into huge consequences down the road.
I've got some intelligence that suggests someone will type they want some dead.
And the dialogue system, pure gold. You don't pick exact words, you pick attitudes. You can be professional, cocky, or casual, but here's the twist. Characters react differently depending on their personalities. Some respect a straight-laced agent, others prefer sarcasm or aggression. It's not about picking good or bad choices, it's about reading people. The story itself, spy movie perfection. It's got conspiracies, betrayals, secret organizations, and plenty of, oh crap, did I just screw everything up moments. And unlike most RPGs, there's no golden path. You make mistakes, people die, and you just have to roll with it. So yeah, Alpha Protocol is rough. The mechanics feel unfinished, the animations are stiff, and the game barely holds itself together sometimes. But no other RPG reacts to your choices quite like this one does. If you can push through the clunky mechanics, you'll find an incredibly unique spy story where you shape the entire adventure. And really, how many games let you solve your problems by roundhouse kicking someone in the face mid-conversation? Call of Cthulhu. Alright, let's step into the fog-drenched nightmare that is Call of Cthulhu. This isn't your usual horror game, it's not about blasting monsters or running from some unkillable creature, no. This one is all about losing your mind, one creepy revelation at a time. You play as Edward Pierce, a washed-up detective in 1924 who takes a case that immediately feels like a bad idea. A mysterious family dies in a suspicious fire, an eerie island town full of weirdos, and a cult that definitely isn't just doing yoga in the basement. It's got all the classic Lovecraftian warning signs, and yet Pierce just has to poke around where he shouldn't. At first, it plays out like a detective game. You gather clues, interrogate locals, and piece together what really happened to the Hawkins family. But the deeper you dig, the weirder everything gets. People start acting off, shadows seem a little too dark, and suddenly your brain is questioning what's real and what's just your sanity falling apart. Because here's the thing, this isn't a game where you win. It's a slow descent into madness. Your choices shape the story, but no matter what, things are gonna get strange. You'll start seeing things that shouldn't be there. You'll question whether the people helping you are actually helping or just nudging you further into the abyss. The more you learn, the worse everything gets. Mechanically, it's a mixed bag. The detective work is awesome. You actually feel like you're unraveling a mystery, digging through old books, and making tough choices. But then there's the stealth sections, and oof, they feel kind of forced. Sneaking past fish-faced cultists should be terrifying, but the AI is so predictable, it turns into more of an annoyance than actual horror. But honestly, you're not here for perfect gameplay, you're here for atmosphere, and this game nails it. Darkwater Island is damp, cold, and unwelcoming. Every location feels like it's hiding something awful, and the deeper you go, the more you wish you hadn't. The game constantly toys with your expectations, making you question if Pierce is solving the mystery or becoming part of it. And the ending? No spoilers, but let's just say Lovecraft stories don't usually wrap up with, and then everyone lived happily ever after. If you go into Call of Cthulhu expecting tight action and perfect mechanics, you're gonna struggle. But if you want a slow-burning, psychological horror game that gets under your skin and makes you feel like you're losing your grip on reality, this is one of the best at doing exactly that. Just try not to stare at anything with too many tentacles for too long, trust me. The Sinking City. sinking city. Basically asks, and again, hey, wanna be a detective in a city that's slowly drowning in nightmares? And before you can even think about saying no, it throws you into the deep end. Literally. You play as Charles Reed, a private investigator with two big problems. One, he's got some seriously disturbing visions that might be driving him insane, and two, the city of Oakmont is a half-flooded, monster-infested disaster where everyone seems to be hiding something. So naturally, he decides this is the perfect place to investigate what's happening to his mind. Great call, Charles. At first glance, the game feels like your classic detective adventure. You search crime scenes, piece together clues, and try to figure out what the hell is going on. But Oakmont doesn't make things easy. There's no hand-holding here, you don't get waypoints pointing right to your objective. You actually have to think like a detective, cross-referencing notes, exploring locations, and making connections on your own. And then there are the monsters. Oh, you thought this was just a detective game? Nah, bro. The city is crawling with these hideous, otherworldly creatures that look like they crawled straight out of someone's worst fever dream. They're fast, aggressive, and some of them are just flat out wrong to look at. And you're not some super soldier either. Combat in this game is awkward and clunky, which actually works in its favor. Every fight feels desperate, like you're not supposed to be doing this, because honestly, you're not. The real horror though is the city itself. Oakmont is eerie, foggy, and way too quiet in some places. Half the streets are underwater, meaning you have to row a boat around like a creepy Uber driver, and the people, let's just say they're not exactly friendly. Some are weirdly fish-like, no big deal, totally normal. Others are clearly hiding things, and everyone talks like they've seen some things they wish they could forget. But the best part? Your choices actually matter. This isn't just a detective game where you gather evidence and the game spells out the answer for you. No, you decide what's right or wrong. Maybe the evidence points one way, but your gut says something else. Maybe you solve a case, but realize that the justice you just served was way worse than if you had done nothing at all.
No, no, no. I don't believe it.
And let's not forget about Reed himself. The more he learns, the worse his sanity gets. You start seeing things that aren't there, maybe. Or maybe they are. You can't always trust what's real, and by the time you start questioning your own mind, the game has already pulled you deep into its web. Now, is the sinking city perfect? No way. The combat is kind of janky, and sometimes the open world parts feel a little empty, but if you're in it for the mystery, the atmosphere, and the slow, creeping dread that gets under your skin, then this game absolutely delivers. Just be careful where you look. Some things in Oakmont don't like being watched. Sherlock Holmes' Crimes and Punishments.
I saw two men. They were both lying.
This game that proves being the smartest guy in the room isn't always a good thing, especially when the right answer might actually be completely wrong. This isn't an action-packed detective story where Holmes turns into some kind of Victorian-era Batman. No fistfights, no car chases, obviously, and no supernatural nonsense. Just pure old-school detective work. And man, does it make you feel like a genius or a total idiot. You take on 6 different cases, each one a tangled mess of lies, missing evidence, and people who definitely aren't telling you the whole truth. You'll be snooping around crime scenes, dusting for fingerprints, analyzing weird substances in your home lab, and interrogating suspects who all act like they have nothing to hide. They totally do. But here's where the game really shines. It never tells you if you're right or wrong. Most detective games hold your hand, making sure you don't mess up too badly. Not here. In Crimes and Punishments, you choose who's guilty based on the clues you find, and the game doesn't stop you if you make the completely wrong call. You could send an innocent man to prison, let a murderer walk free, or even decide that maybe justice isn't always black and white. And trust me, you will doubt yourself. You might think, oh yeah, it's totally this guy. Then 5 minutes later, you find a tiny piece of evidence that completely flips your theory upside down. It's not about finding the right answer, it's about building a case you believe in. The deduction system is what makes it all work. You gather clues, link them together in your brain, and come to a conclusion. But here's the kicker. The same clues can lead to different theories. Maybe the butler did do it, or maybe he's just a jerk with bad luck. Maybe the suspect you're accusing is lying, or maybe you've been looking at the wrong details the whole time. And then, once you've cracked the case, you decide what to do. Do you hand over your suspect to the law, or do you let them go because technically they had a good reason for what they did? It's your call, and the game lets you live with it. Visually, the game is stunning for its time. Victorian London looks beautifully grimy, filled with little details that make the world feel real, and Sherlock himself, a mix of brilliant and kind of a jerk, just as he should be. The voice acting is solid, and the characters have just enough personality to make you question everyone. Now, is it perfect? Not exactly. Some of the mini-games feel a bit clunky, and there are times when Holmes' super deduction skills make you do something so weirdly specific that it takes a few tries to figure out what the game actually wants, but honestly, that's a small price to pay for a detective game that actually respects your intelligence. So, if you love solving mysteries, overthinking tiny details, and second-guessing yourself for hours, Crimes and Punishment is a must-play.
I have good news for you, Wiggins.
습시雪月花